I like reading books about the drama of the soul, period. Hi, my name's Thomas Vowles. I'm the author of Our New Gods, which is out June the 3rd with the University of Queensland Press. Our New Gods is a psychological thriller set in the Melbourne queer scene. It follows Ash, who's a young gay man. He's recently arrived in Melbourne. It's like this new, exciting world for him. He has this one best friend who he's desperately and secretly in love with, James. James has a new boyfriend that Ash thinks is a bad person. He witnesses something at a party that kind of, gives him red flags. And it spirals from there. Things get real. The gays are behaving badly. It was the book that I would look for when I came into bookstores. I wanted queer characters that were allowed to kind of exist within a space that was a bit complicated, morally complex, people struggling with what we all struggle with, which is the kind of existential question of how to trust ourselves, how to trust other people, how to navigate the kind of uncertainty of reality. I think that lends itself to the psychological thriller, and that as a genre is a sensibility that I've always been very aligned with. Queer characters are underrepresented in that genre and in genre in general. So it was also exciting for me to consider what would happen if I took queer bodies and queer stories and explored that through the kind of tropes of genre. There's three main characters, all young gay men, sort of early 20s, living in Melbourne. Our main character has moved here from Western Australia, kind of in search of a life that allows him a kind of excitement and freedom that he's never had in the small country town he grew up in. And he finds that within the other core characters of the novel, there's his friend James, who he's kind of lusting after, or at least there's some connection there that is the emotional pull of the novel. James is of a similar age. He grew up in Melbourne. He's very much like within the cool kid community. He's the one to show Ash around, show him, where people are hanging out, where the parties are, that sort of thing. Usher him into this new world. And then one of the other core characters is Raf, who's a Brazilian man, similar to Ash, has come to Melbourne for the excitement and adventure of a new life. And the book really follows the kind of dynamics between these three men as they navigate their individual desires, and also the complexities of what happens when they're all thrust together. This question of the unreliability, which is, I think, a strong part of the aesthetic experience of the book, but also really informs plot, character, and sort of the journey that the audience is taken on. There's this thing that I wanted to do, which is classic to psychological thrillers, examining sort of how fragile our lives are, how easily they can be disrupted or unhinged, that nothing is really stable. There's kind of a philosophical point of view that I think the book has. I mean, I'm a full-time writer in terms of like I keep full-time hours as a writer, essentially. I have a casual job that pays the bills and also allows me the freedom to invest as much as I can in writing. Looking for a benefactor if anyone wants to, you know, help this emerging young writer. But in the meantime, yeah, this is my first novel. I went to film school, which one of the benefits of that was learning how to write pretty much anywhere at any time. But, and most importantly, the importance of a routine. I write very well in the morning, and I write very well over sustained periods of time, meaning like hours at a time. I listen to music when I write. I love being in cafes or in parks, leaving sort of the home whenever I can. I'm a big journaler. I think journaling is kind of essential to my writing practice as a way of connecting to the part of me where the writing comes from, which feels like a sort of deeper psychological state that it goes beyond the noise of the conscious mind. I think one of the ways to sort of settle that is by journaling, but it's also great practice. And there's something really romantic about journaling that just gets me in the mood to like sit down and write a novel, you know? Do I go to school reunions or not? I've never been to a school reunion, but I'm obsessed with people. I'd love to see what everyone's up to. I mean, for a lot of queer people, school is not a fun experience. So the idea of going to a school reunion, I don't know, I have dreams about returning to high school as like the fully formed man I am today, as a like, I don't know, close the loop, you know, he's here, he's queer. Something I couldn't say to my high school buddies, but yeah. I think a book is inherently political by virtue of being the product of action taken by a body in a specific time and place, who's the outcome of certain structures that govern and create our lives. And the writer is engaging with the question of how that informs the work, because it just has to, it does. There's many ways of answering the question of how am I going to engage with this question of being a political body. And I think that allows the possibility for a certain restlessness and for there to be no set answer means that we can find new ways of answering that question in 2025 and beyond as we like move into sort of a new reality, essentially. I like reading books about the drama of the soul, period. I don't know, I love like books that take me into the depths of the psychology of someone, who kind of burrow into the mind of a weirdo or someone, especially someone who exists on the fringes, who's able to kind of critique the mainstream or bring us into places that open up possibilities of thinking about ourselves and the world. I'm kind of obsessed with writers who themselves are obsessed with conveying someone's experience of consciousness in the tradition of Virginia Woolf, James Baldwin. When I think of contemporary writers, I think of Garth Greenwell, Brandon Taylor, these people who are capturing what it feels like to be a thinking, active body. And I also like things that are like a bit dirty, a little bit wrong, forbidden. Yeah, a bit filthy. Yeah, I was a voracious reader growing up, I think like all writers. And it was Roald Dahl, it was Paul Jennings, it was Cornelia Funk, Diana Wynne Jones, Emily Rodda. that kind of opened the possibilities of the world, that showed me that there was something beyond the small town that I was growing up in rural Australia, by being a bit naughty and a bit magical. You know, when you've had that experience as a child, this experience of your mind being opened and the world made larger by this object, the book, I don't know, it implants in your psyche, and books have always been this magical invention that feels transcendental to the human race. What's next to me is the next book. When I wrote this book, I felt like I unlocked a part of myself that I'd never been able to convey on the page before, which felt like a very soulful um, part of me. And I want to continue over the course of my career trying to get closer to that sense of how do I bring what I know to be true in a foundational way onto the page. And I mean, continue to do that in a way that feels dangerous. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.